Hey, we'll go ahead and get started. I think it's around 1900, East Coast time. And first of all, I want to say thanks for the panelists who's actually presenting tonight. We have a action-packed mentorship session tonight, focused on career transition with the civilian service and federal hiring process. And I will tell you, this is the second Military Police Regiment Association webinar. And one of the things talking to some of the veterans they thought would be beneficial was to actually do our mentorship session on the federal hiring process. And tonight we have three great presenters. We have Director Richard Klein. He is the actual director of the Federal Protective Services. So he took time out of his busy schedule as the main guy of that organization to come on here and share his nuggets on this federal organization and looking at hiring procedures. And I think it speaks volumes for him. He's actually advocate for militaries, high military members in his organization. And also we have Chelsea Porterfield. She's on tonight as well. Chelsea is a former military police, and he hired her. And I would tell you, if any of you know old timers, her father-in-law is Doug Porterfield, who was a friend and mentor of mine as a young lieutenant, company commander at Fort Stewart, Georgia. And the next person we have is the old school guy in the room. You got Oliver Saunders. Oliver Saunders is a retired colonel. He is currently serving in an SES billet with the Drug Enforcement Administration. And you look at Oliver's background, he's a guy that pretty much have done it all in the military and on the civilian sector to come in and get some nuggets as well. In our last presenter, we have retired Command Sergeant Major Mike True. And I really don't have to say who Mike True is. Mike True is one of the guys that has a great career in the military, and he's really a true advocate on the civilian side as far as in taking care of veterans. So we have three great presenters tonight, and we'll go ahead and please go over to the next slide, please. You may ask yourself, what are these webinar sessions? These webinar sessions is a way really to educate military police regiment association members, give them an opportunity to discuss a variety of different topics, dealing with leadership, organization culture, state of the MP regiment. That was the first webinar that we conducted with Sarah Albright, and she did a great job as far as in laying out the MP Corps, pretty much current state and where it's going. We're also looking at mentorship, talent management, and we also have some great programs from the MPRA. And I've been sitting on the board now for pretty much over about 2 years now. And I will tell you, I've been very impressed with the leadership of the MPRA. So this is an opportunity pretty much to give back. So what you see tonight, we're going to go into this presentation with the three presenters. And pretty much, once we get done, we have a question and answer session. And you have those three participants in the panel that will be answering any questions after that. Next slide, please. Some of the things here, this is the protocol. The attendees will not be able to turn on the cameras throughout the webinar. If you have a question at any time when someone's presenting, please make sure you raise your hand, and that question will come to me, and we'll give it to the actual presenters. We will answer all questions that come up, and we get to them during the actual webinar. We're looking at doing an hour, but if not, we'll take those questions down, and we'll make sure that we send them back out. Once we get done to the field, we'll get those questions answered from the panelists. And this webinar, one good thing about it, it will be recorded. So Aaron and Beth will send those slides out and any attachments that may come up, and also send the slides out as well. All right, next slide, please. And we'll go ahead and turn this over to my main man, Command Sergeant Major Mike True. Go ahead, Mike. It's on you.
Thanks, Gerald. And I'm not sure how I wound up not being referred to as the old school guy, and Colonel Saunders wound up with that title tonight, but I appreciate him taking the hit. Next slide, please. So as Colonel Matt mentioned, we're going to kind of give you an overview of what our intent is for this transitioning uh, assistance, if you will, mentor program that is his brainchild to assist our population across the entire MPRA, as well as friends of the Military Police Regimental Association, family members as well. Next slide, please. We intend to share some of our experiences, and as Colonel Matt mentioned, we're going to try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. A couple of things that I want to talk to you about as we grow this program. We intend to down the road provide some one-on-one coaching and mentoring on demand. This is a planned activity. We got to build up enough folks that we can support that the right way, and we're doing that as we speak. We're reaching around across those contacts that we've maintained through our careers and even into private sector and government work. And we're starting to build a pretty good stable of folks who are willing to assist. We can also assist you with some opportunities to help grow your brand and your brand awareness with LinkedIn profiles, other social media profiles, etc. I've been doing this coaching and mentoring for transitioning veterans since I transitioned back in 2004. I saw some gaps when I went through the transition program at Fort Leonard Wood. I became actively involved with that transition office and assisted with resume builds, interview panels, and some corporate, because at the time I was working in private sector. We had corporate forums where there were several of us who would answer questions on what to expect when you enter the job market from the corporate standpoint. I have since moved out of corporate, and I'm now a full-time employee, work from home for the VA. I also have some connections through all of this contact and networking that I've done since my retirement, with providing some insights into the disability rating process. You can reach out if you want some additional insights with that. You can just provide your contact information, and we can have a discussion, and I can help you try to understand the minefield that the disability rating process can be sometimes. Next slide, please. So who do we serve? From an MPR standpoint, our primary target audience are those who are MPRA members and their families. This includes active duty as well as reserve component. We also serve veterans, and we have some spouse and adult children programs that we support for those that are connected to our organization. In this forum, we've opened it up to people who might just be friends of our regiment, and we enjoy the opportunity to get some of your questions answered as well. Next slide. So here's a plug for what we can do and how you can help us. We encourage you to reach out to your friends and colleagues to help us grow this service. We have a group of folks, like I said, who are willing to give back, and we certainly appreciate any comments that you may offer to help us do a better job serving the needs of those who attend these sessions. Next slide. So I'm going to kind of get into the meat and potatoes now as part of my brief. There are going to be some tools that you can use that are provided in the chat that we have. One of them, to save some time rather than play the video, this slide deck has a hot link here. Write an incredible resume, 5 golden rules. It's a 8-minute plus video on YouTube. But in summary, there were 5 golden rules and some things that you can take away that might help you with building your resume, regardless if you're shooting for something within private sector or especially within government workspace. I'm not going to steal the thunder of those who are coming behind me tonight, but a couple of things that as takeaways that you might want to consider. One of those is creating a brand or a brand awareness with a LinkedIn profile. A lot of folks are able to put that information into their resume as a hot link for people to look at and get a little more insight into who you are, some of the experiences that you have, and get a better understanding of who they're trying to hire. A lot of folks, when they build those resume, they use a lot of key words, and they emphasize soft skills, not necessarily the hard skills. And what do I mean by that? Soft skills are those things that they talk about at those transition offices where they talk to you about emphasizing teamwork and leadership traits and all those kinds of things that you do with a career in the military to develop a certain knowledge, skills, and abilities across the spectrum. But the bottom line is that those candidates that focus too heavily on those soft skills, um, they're not able to articulate tangible, quantifiable knowledge, skills, and abilities, things that the HR hiring team or the hiring manager, um, or a hiring management group, um, because sometimes those are panels, especially in the government, those panels, they're not able to really put their arms around those hard skills that you might need to quantify in that resume, how you were able to accomplish certain things. Measurable metrics improve resume outcomes. But as you see there, 26% of the resumes that were included in this over 200 surveyed results, they only found that 26% of those resumes included 5 or more metrics. Research also showed that resume length. Now, I will say that for private sector, this 475 to 600 band is a good number. It's a good metric to scale your resume down. But I will say that those who have submitted their resumes into the USA Jobs website, that 600 word count may be low. And I'll leave it at that. We can talk offline, or if you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And then the last golden rule when you're trying to write an incredible resume is we get into a habit doing this in the military where we like to embellish certain aspects of who we are and what we've done, especially when it comes time for writing up awards and that sort of thing. It When you write a resume, it's not the time to embellish and include a bunch of buzzwords and cliches or incorrect pronouns. I used to tell folks, and well, I actually still do, when you write a resume, you have to demilitarize some of the jargon that's included in those resumes because some people, even though it may be a government position that you're trying to get, some people won't appreciate all that jargon. They would rather just see what it means within their own language, if you will, rather than using military jargon to talk about what you've done and your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Next slide, please.
Hey, Mike, one thing real quick, just make sure, tell the anybody's observing, make sure that you have any questions. Go ahead and type those questions into the chat box as well, and we'll make sure we answer those as we go. And also, too, is Aaron is putting some great links as we go through this briefing. She's gonna put them in the chat box, so make sure you save those links and go back and take a look at them later.
Thank you. To that end, this slide here is basically just what Colonel Mapp just mentioned. Uh, it's a couple of things that I've learned through experience, some ways to help you craft the language that you need to build your resume, soft skills versus hard skills. Um, we also have um, it basically a variety of different resources from across the spectrum, whether private sector or government, and it has a great many hot links for you in that embedded file for you to check out. Uh, Anything from tools that you can use to help write your resume, especially if you're looking in a government workspace. And then the last link there, USA Jobs Helpful Hints, another attachment that will be posted in the chat, as well as available as part of the recording for this session. Next slide, please. So I just kind of covered, I know I talked pretty quick. I wanted to allow maximum opportunity for us to get to any questions that those who are attending might have once we get through this, but I'll open the floor if there's any that you see, Gerald, that we might need to answer right now before I continue on.
Hey, Mike, we only got really one thing. You have retired Colonel Ash. He's on the line tonight. And I know the name very well. Have never got a chance to meet him, but he's a SES for the security operation in the United States Customs and Border Patrol. And basically, what he said is they basically are hiring right now into the next 7 years. They're looking at hiring over 3,000 people. And if anybody on the line tonight, looking at the U.S. Border Patrol, he's gonna put his information in chat, and he's willing to help out any MP that's on the line tonight. See, that's kind of service you get here tonight. You got, we're here trying to personnel are transitioning, getting out of the Army, maybe reservists on the call tonight. That's kind of why we're on here. So, but we'll make sure we get this information. We'll make sure we pass it on to whoever's on the line tonight. So thanks, Colonel Ash. I appreciate that.
Hey, Colonel Hayes, long time no talk to. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. We kind of summarized what we do, who we serve, and how you can help. Next slide. And that takes me into transition, and I'm going to turn the baton over to Colonel Saunders for his comments on specifics to Drug Enforcement Administration. Thank you for your attendance tonight, folks, and appreciate any comments. Colonel Saunders,
thank you.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant Major True. And I'd like to thank everybody, especially Gerald and all the staff there at MPRA for putting this on. This is a great opportunity, not just for us that are on panelists, but just as Gerald mentioned, I looked through the participant list, and there's a huge amount of information and knowledge on the panel. So, and not just on the panel, but out in the actual participant list. So that's a great sign that there's a thirst for knowledge and also a thirst to share information. So I really thank everybody for participating. Just so folks who know who I am, I'm Oliver Saunders, a retired MP, been served for 27 years in the MP Corps, did quite a bit. And then also now in my second career, well, second or third, I am now the Chief of Strategic Planning for the Drug Enforcement Administration, responsible for doing all of their long-term, midterm, and also strategic planning throughout the agency, internal and external. So, but with that being said, though, I've also been involved heavily in veterans actions within DEA, hiring veterans, some of the veterans and employment initiatives that we started in the administration, and we really are looking forward to recruiting and bringing on as many qualified people as we can. And I'll talk more about that. And I'm going to kind of give a overview of the Drug Enforcement Administration's overview itself to give people an idea of what we do. So most people get a lot of what we do through just binging on a season of Narcos or Mayans or looking at the Sicario movie. And I'll kind of talk through that a little bit. And then also kind of talk through some of the specific hiring initiatives that we are looking at in the Drug Enforcement Administration, focused on military personnel and bringing folks on in the agency. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and move in with the next slide, please. So this is our DEA mission, real quick. And the focus on this and why it's a little bit unique is because the Drug Enforcement Administration is an enforcement agency, but we have a very unique mission because we're small, but we do investigative, enforcement, regulatory, and we have a role in the intelligence community. So, as I'll show you in one of the next slides, we're small, but we have a broad-based mission that spans a number of areas, just not fighting drugs. Of course, one of the first things we do right now with the global war on targeting criminal narco organizations, our focus is going after those organizations that are bringing drugs into the United States. And we do that with a relatively small organization. We only have about 9,000 people, as you see, but really with those 9,000 people, we focused our efforts not only on special agents, even though we are focused mainly on special agents, but we have analysts, diversion investigators, as well as business operations personnel in the organization. So there's an opportunity to fit into DEA in a lot of different places. Okay. Next slide, please. This is a quick snapshot of our vision, and that really kind of takes us through really what we're focused on here and now. I think everybody can look out their door and kind of really recall and understand the urgency of the current day, where we have 110,000 Americans dying because of opioid overdoses and drug poisonings. And that focuses on those first two strategic goals of our organization, is really focused on looking at those main criminal networks that are trafficking fentanyl and methamphetamine and killing Americans today. 110,000. I'll give you just a quick some data points to kind of think through for a second. 7 out of 10 fake pills that are sold and transacted and traded in our communities today have a lethal dose of fentanyl or some other adulterant. 7 out of 10. So that really, speaks to the whole issue of one pill can kill, and that is our singular mission focus in the agency. And at the same time, we focus on the fact that most of those pills are made with precursors that are coming from China and manufactured in Mexico by those two primary organizations, and then sold everywhere in our country. And that's really our primary focus. And we need folks to join the fight to address that. And then you see some of the other strategic goals that focus on what we do in our regulatory mission, as well as increasing public awareness. I think most communities in our country now understand the term one pill can kill. And that's been a very concerted and focused effort for us to kind of get everybody the awareness that they need to keep our communities safe. And at the same time, one of the things that I'm focused on as the chief of strategic planning is transforming the agency for not just what we do now, but also what we do in the future. So that's our strategic goals. And if you go on to the next slide, please. So where can you expect to be if you come into the Drug Enforcement Administration? As I mentioned, we're a small organization of only about 9,000. We have 250 domestic offices throughout the U.S. and 23 domestic divisions. But in the foreign space, we are in 92 countries and 92 foreign offices and 69 countries. Well accessed and placed, and most, and if not all of that access is focused on enforcement actions that have a domestic nexus, because our weighted effort is our domestic focus. You see here at the bottom of the slide where we're at with our current workforce. We have about 4,000 agents, 800 intelligence analysts, 703 diversion investigators that really focus on the 1.5 million pharmacy registrants throughout the nation, our chemists that do outstanding work in analyzing chemical exhibits, and then the business operations side, like for the business operations professionals like myself and others that support not only our enforcement and investigative operations, but also our planning efforts and support and logistics as well. So that's our workforce. I use the term we are small, but punch out and over our weight class. Okay. Next slide, please. So where are we? So one of the things I think is important is for all of our federal agencies, and I know Director Klein is going to talk about it as well, and I would say Ashton, Colonel Hayes would say this about CBP, is placement and access of all of our federal law enforcement and partners is important in where we are, and for DEA it's no different. For us, our weighted effort is those domestic cases that have nexus to those most violent and dangerous criminal organizations domestically. So you see here our domestic field divisions. We have 23 of them. We have district offices all throughout the U.S., and we have many resident offices and posted duty. So just about anywhere in the U.S. you can be, you can find yourself working, not just on the border, as if you're looking at an episode of Mayans. Yeah. Next slide. In the foreign division, our placement access is very unique. And because our foreign divisions, even though they're focused on supporting our domestic offices, really where you see them is where the nexus of those criminal organizations and transnational crime organizations are located. So they're not in, all the garden spots. They're in the spots where drugs, terror, transnational organized crime are. And we focus ourselves there in an operational way. So that way we are working by, with, and through our foreign partners in an operational context of drawing up operations and investigations that lead back to the U.S. So what does all that mean? That means you could find yourself in places such as Africa, in South Africa. You could find your place in Colombia, Medellin, Mexico, as well as Delhi, Australia, in Europe. All of those places supporting domestic operations. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to kind of transition to the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to kind of give to the group, is because, yeah, we do a lot in DEA, but really I wanted to focus on, and hopefully this will lead to some questions about what are some of our veterans recruiting and hiring initiatives throughout the DEA. As the chief of strategic planning for the agency, I talk with the administrator and our senior leaders on a regular basis. And one of our key initiatives is how we hire our people, and trying to get the right people in the right spots. And we understand that veterans, and particularly for me being an MP, former MPs that are transitioning, we know that there is a key skill set that will fit into the DEA population. Out of our 9,000 employees, we have about 2,000 that are veterans total in DEA. So that's a pretty high number. And some of the things we've tried to do is focus on these programs you see here. The first one is Operation Warfighter. I think many of you may be aware of it. Operation Warfighter looks to bring on disabled veterans in an internship capacity, where they are linked up with particular DEA offices, whether it be in our headquarters or out in the field divisions, and they get an opportunity to work as an intern while they're still in the military and transitioning. What does that do? I think that helps in some of the ways that you can lean forward, just like Sergeant Major True said, in getting your paperwork ready, understanding some of the key components of, if you're looking at a job in federal law enforcement in general, but DEA specifically, some of the things that can get you better prepared and lean forward in that process. Operation Warfighter does that for you. And it especially does that for disabled veterans. The Skill Bridge program is one that I think many may also be aware of, and that's for all DoD veterans who are planning on transitioning out of the military. And you can team up with a DEA office and then get linked in before coming out of the of uniform, and then transitioning into DEA right after that. Those do offer opportunities for all skill series, whether you're planning on coming in as an investigator or a program analyst or a strategic planner or an intel analyst. Those two programs support all skill sets. One program that we just started up is the Special Agent 1811 Lateral Recruitment Incentive Program. And one of those things and the reason why we focused on this initially is because right now we want to look at hiring those special agents and those who are 1811s, primarily in the CID world or other 1811s throughout the government, and bring them on in an expedited fashion. One of the things when we did that, we heard some requests like, were they able to maintain their grade if they were 13 or 14 in, for example, a CID position or another 1811 position in the federal government? would they be able to keep and maintain that grade? Same time, in many opportunities, instead of going to our normal 16-week academy, we're looking at shortening the academy for those special agents in 18-level lateral positions. So this way, you don't have to go through, for example, and do your firearms qualification again, because we would assume if you're 1811 or some type of law enforcement investigator, you are coming with your qualifications, things like that. And then also staying in your preferred location. That's a big thing. You saw in our domestic offices, they're all over the country. And one of the things we heard from a lot of those transitioning investigators and law enforcement personnel is they wanted to stay put because they were a little bit more seasoned. They have families, they have other concerns, and they didn't want to have to move and relocate immediately. So these were some of the things that are components of our lateral recruitment incentive program, where we're looking at having the announcement up right now. The initial announcement is up on USA Jobs. The jobs posting and announcement number there is for your reference. You can go a link on it and find out more information. So what I wanted to do is kind of give you some of the key hiring initiatives that we're looking for in the Drug Enforcement Administration to focus on bringing on all the right folks. I think for our MP community and those in MPRA, this is a great opportunity to look at joining a great organization. Next slide, please. And then I will close by outlining some key considerations. And really, this is, just to dovetail off of all of the great information, outstanding information that Sergeant Major True mentioned. I would second, third, and fourth all of the things he mentioned as far as preparing, not only the things you need to do for your resume, soft skills, metrics, all those things. I've sat on a hiring board, and I have been a hiring official in my capacity. And all of those things that he's mentioned ring true. And then there will be some additional ones, like, for example, apply early as possible. If you're looking at any type of federal position and knowing that you have to get on USA Jobs, you have to wait for it to open, but have your material ready, understanding that when those positions do open up that you may be interested in, you can have those things submitted as soon as possible. And have your records up to date, not just your military 214, but all the things that you're going to need. If you're coming in from the federal civilian workforce, have those things like your SF-50 and all the other applicable documents ready as well. And also, I would say be flexible. One of the things we found, particularly for us in looking at our DEA workforce, is we understand that the new talent management for where people want to go and how they want to come onto the federal workforce is a lot different now than it was even 5 years ago. But we would say, and I would say, another key consideration, in addition to all the other great things, is to be flexible. So I wanted to kind of go over those things pretty quick and concise, because I wanted to transition over to Director Klein and give him an opportunity. And I'll stand by for any questions, or we'll just wait to the end of the presentation.
Hey, great presentation. We have some questions. We're gonna wait to get to those questions after Director Klein's portion. But great job,
Thank you.
Okay, great. Can we go to the next slide, please? We'll go one more. Oh, thank you, everyone, and thanks for having me on this event tonight. I'm a member of MPRA, like you all are, and it's a great organization to be part of. I retired from the MP Corps a long time ago. I'm joined on this call by Chelsea Porterfield. She also retired from the MP Corps. And then Latika Roman is on from our Human Capital Program to be able to help answer some questions that you might have. I joined the federal government 22 years ago as a GS-13. I've been a member of the Senior Executive Service for the last 13 years. So one thing I'll mention before we get started is don't think you're going to come into the federal government at the highest grade possible. It's very difficult. Those are very few positions. The goal is to get your foot in the door. I'm going to talk briefly about the Federal Protective Service. This is our mission, vision, and purpose, but basically We're responsible for protecting the employees and business operations of the federal government. Next slide, please. Thanks. So we are located in every U.S. state and territory, and we protect about 1.4 million employees who support 66 federal agencies in about 9,000 facilities across the country. We have 15,000 employees and contractors that consist of uniformed law enforcement officers, explosive detection canine teams, criminal investigators, training and mission support staff, a large cadre of contracted protective security officers, and then we have our contract dispatchers that dispatch our folks across the nation. Next slide, please. This really gets into the meat of the discussion I wanted to have with you tonight. Is all of our vacancies in the Federal Protective Service are posted on the Office of Personnel Management's official job posting site, which is usajobs.gov. Some tips on USA Jobs that you need to be thinking of now is, number one, create a profile on USA Jobs. It provides all your information. It allows you the opportunity to upload important documents like a resume, like your D-214, or a letter from your commander, your VA letter, and any other documents that you might have that would be pertaining to a position you might apply for. You can also, in your profile, find interested job series and duty locations that you're interested in, and you can register to have OPM. USA Jobs will email you when a job is announced, either in that series you're interested in or the duty location you're looking for. When applying for jobs, and we hear about this all the time, I can't hire you off the street. You have to go through the USA Jobs process. First thing that's most important is to follow the instructions in that job announcement. It will tell you how to apply for the position. You have to upload all the required documents. Many instances when someone tells me they're going to apply for one of our jobs, and then they get an email from USA Jobs saying they were not referred to the selecting official, it's normally because a document that's required to be submitted for that application was not included in the application. And that kicks you off in a minute. There are hundreds of thousands of people are applying for jobs on USA Jobs every year. And you're just one of those 100,000. So we can't tell anything about you until you get your application submitted, and then USA Jobs or OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, will provide us with a list of eligible applicants that meet the minimum requirements that are included in the job announcement. Once we get that that list, we also receive the resumes and any documents that were uploaded. And we put a panel together that reviews those resumes and those documents, and then they prioritize from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. And we will typically interview the top 10. Your main goal is to get the interview, because now it's your point. It's your turn to sell yourself to the interview panel. After the panel is complete, the panel will make a recommendation on who should be selected for that position. And then the hiring official will make the selection. We go back through OPM, we make the selection, and now you're put into a process for clearance. So we require a few things. One, you have to have a background investigation completed. Also, for our law enforcement positions, you have to complete a physical and a urinalysis. And you'll be scheduled for all those through the process if you're selected through the job. Once you complete all those, you'll be given a final job offer with a EOD, or an entered on duty date, to report to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Georgia, or Artesia, New Mexico, to begin your training. We EOD all of our new employees at their training location. You go through your training. It's about 6 months, and then you get assigned to your duty location. I wanted to have some time for Chelsea Porterfield, who I mentioned before. She's on the call. She works in our recruiting program. I wanted to give her a minute to highlight some other points when looking to apply for positions. Chelsea, can you go ahead, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending this evening. Like the director said, I retired recently in 2022. I was former MP as well, 20 years. There's a few things as I learned navigating into the federal workforce that I would like to share with all of you that are coming into or thinking about applying into the federal workforce. And a few things that all of our panel members have addressed very poignantly was the USA Jobs profile. It's very important that you do have a full, comprehensive USA Jobs profile completely built out and also searchable. And when you make it searchable, if you make your profile completely searchable and user-friendly, other employers can find you as well. And if you meet their criteria, they can reach out to you on the other end as well. One thing that's unique about being a military policeman or military police officer, coming out into the federal sector, you don't necessarily, or everything that you touch is quantifiable. So as someone who spent the last year and a half reviewing resumes and sending them over to the hiring manager, not for only law enforcement positions, but business operation managers, management program analysts, if you have spent any time, 20 years, 14 years in a law enforcement entity or law enforcement agency, everything you do and touch has data back to it. So if you put that in perspective for things that you have worked with as a squad leader or as a operations NCO or a training NCO or things of that nature, any systems that you have used has data quantified with it. So it's easy to articulate your skill set in a law enforcement capacity for the federal workforce. And it could be going towards your skills resume building requirements that way. I know that myself and especially some of my supervisors coming in, Miss Latika Roman that's on here, whenever we discuss resume quantifiable bullets, it's always very how do you it can be kind of overwhelming when you read a USA Jobs posting and you read the qualifications or the duty descriptions or something of that nature. It feels like maybe you're not good enough, or maybe I don't feel like I should fit this thing. And really, when it comes to this mentor program that MPRA is in coaching is trying to set up, it really is something that's easy to put in perspective if someone is there to help you through that. And I'm more than happy to be available as well as a coach and a mentor through this, because I know that I was able to have great mentors in coming through this process that helped me through that way as well. And that's all I have about spending the last year and a half going through this and helping some of the applicants understand where they need to kind of massage some bullets or understand where they're coming from this and how they can use some of the military transition assistance programs to their advantage to come into the federal workforce. For example, one more PCS move for the Army Assistance Program or Army Transition Assistance Program that could be used to gainfully move you to another location if you would like to PCS somewhere or take employment somewhere out of another state. The continuing your background check, the constant background check that goes on if you're applying for something that is a higher security clearance, you would just require another employment screening or employment letter verification to allow that process to continue while you're transitioning out of the service. That's another advantage that you could utilize through a transition assistance program into the federal workforce that allows that. There is one thing I will say, that the background, no matter if it is federal through the DEA, FPS, DHS, any federal agencies, background, medical, and screening, that is all specific to you. There is not one cookie cutter answer. So if you, those are unique to you, background is unique to you, medical screening is unique to you, security clearance is unique to you. So if it's something that you are looking to gain employment with, a 3-letter agency, a law enforcement SWAT type job, you're going to have to really dig down deep and understand that these are some of the things that are unique to you. And you're going to have to ask yourself, this is what I need. This is what I need to prepare for. And with that, sir, that's all I have.
Yeah.
I will, if Miss Roman has anything, I can turn it over to her.
Okay, great. Latika, we're going to take some questions at the end of this thing. Do you have anything quickly to add before we move to the question and answer period?
Yes, sir. Just one thing for everyone. I wanted to make sure everyone is aware when applying to DHS jobs on USA jobs, we review up to the first 5 pages of your resume. So I know some folks coming out, they try to get their resume to just 2 pages. You can go up to 5 pages on your resume. So give us as much detail as you can so that we can ensure that we have all that meat and potatoes to qualify you against the position.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Yeah, thank you, Latika. So we're going to move on past FPS, but I want to highlight that within our organization, 72% of our workforce are veterans, and 80% of our law enforcement workforce are veterans. I'm a veteran. Chelsea's a veteran. Most of our agency's veterans. We know what we get when we hire a vet. We know that they're capable of getting up, getting dressed, getting to work, being accountable, being responsible, getting their work done before they go home. So it's an honor for us to be able to talk to you all today, and we look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Director Klein. Also, thanks, Chelsea and Latika. A great briefing. Appreciate you coming on tonight, as far as participating in this event. Great job. At this time, we'll go ahead and start the panel discussion. I have a couple of questions, and if you have any questions, any additional questions, go ahead and make sure you put them in the chat. The first question I got tonight is coming from my good friend, retired Larry Orvis. His question was, networks are pretty important in post-hiring job hunting. How do mid-level NCOs/officers who maybe don't have a strong network take advantage of the strong retired MP network as they enter the post-military job market? What can we do before they retire ETS, or what can we do after they retire ETS? And I'm gonna go ahead and take that, Larry. Hey, one of the things that we're doing as far as looking at the MPRA, we trying to create a contact list. Like Colonel Haynes came on tonight. His organization that he works for, we basically trying to come up with a Rolodex for each MP that may be working in the federal sector and come up with a list. And for someone who applying for a job, they can reach out to them prior to as a mentor. And even tonight, for example, we have David Taylor. He's a retired first sergeant out of the USDB. He one of the guys that I mentored over years, and we linked him up with Oliver Sanders. So now he's working on Oliver Sanders for us in their strategic planning session. So things like that, we want to open that up and kind of teach guys and girls pretty much how to reach out to different people in those different sectors. And that's one of the things that we want to do. But we're gonna create that contact list. And another thing I talked to Rick today, Rick Horn, is basically coming up with a SharePoint site. So, my end state as the guy looking at mentorship along with Mike and Oliver is come up with a SharePoint site where personnel can actually put stuff on the actual SharePoint site. And I think that'll be good as far as, maybe resume building, the mentorship group that they can reach out to look at the resumes and look at the LinkedIn site. But that's some of the things that we're looking at. And I go ahead and turn it over to Mike and Oliver for any other following comments.
So I put something in the chat specifically to that question that Larry asked. Appreciate the question, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that some folks don't know or are unaware of that is available to veterans, it doesn't matter if they're MP or not. If you want to try to create a network, is LinkedIn premium memberships are free for your first year as a veteran. And if you look at what that brings you, you can set up a profile. They'll provide opportunities that would just come to your inbox. But more importantly, there's a lot of us old retiree guys that are out there who have LinkedIn profiles. And once you get that premium membership established, start looking for military police who are already there and help broaden that networking capability with an opportunity that's basically free of charge. That's just one additional tool that I would recommend for their use.
Okay, I got another question from Arando Sanchez. And I'm going to say this over for the LPS, Latika and Chelsea, and Director Klein. This is a question for your team. Arando basically put in the chat that he's been an MP for 14 years and he's ETSing in March 2025. When do you recommend he start applying on the USA job sites for employment?
Thanks, Gerald. And great question. It's something that everybody thinks about, like how soon should I be applying, knowing when you get out. I'd say if you get out in March of 2025, probably around the January timeframe to start looking at those jobs that you're interested in and start applying. It's a process. It's not going to happen in 30 days. I don't know that there's an agency out there that from the time they announce a job to the time someone is on board, it's anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. It depends on the background investigation, the physical, all the things that go along with that. Latika Roman has been a superstar in our human capital program for 100 years. Latika, what are your recommendations on when they should apply for those positions? How far out from the time they get out of the Army?
Director Klein, I think you were spot on in saying January, because it is a lengthy process in terms of going through applying and then going, if selected, going through the pre-employment requirements before getting an EOD scheduled. So anywhere, I mean, you could even start as early as November. Really, with applying with FPS, I can tell you that for sure. To ensure that we have the opportunity to, go through interview, looking at your documents and things of that nature. So I say anywhere between November to January. I would not wait till March.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you may want to highlight on your resume somewhere towards the top that I am ETSing from the Army on this date. So the panel knows that you've got your date that you're able to be hired by the federal government is on this date.
We have a question from Daniel Gachu. He's the Provost Sergeant of Joint Base Meyer Henderson Hall. His question is, does the MPRA community have a few individuals or groups that critique resumes for additional help or guidance? Currently setting up a USA Jobs and LinkedIn. Thanks, team. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mike. Mike, you go ahead and discuss it. That's one of the guys you might want to pass his information on until we develop the mentorship group and put those individuals in those bucket lists. We're going to do that further down the road. We're developing that list of review resumes. But as of right now, we got a subject matter expert, one of the guys on the call tonight, Mike True. Go ahead and talk that piece, please.
Hey, Daniel, I put my my email in a chat directly to you. But anybody else who wants to take me up on that offer, the bottom line is, as you've already heard, it's a lengthy process, but there's some things that I can kind of help you maneuver that minefield to set up your profile as was discussed, and to start working with some of the documents that you can already have preloaded into the system, and then walk you through some of the lessons learned that I've helped others with, especially when you get that job announcement that you're looking for. One of the key areas to focus in on, and I put this in the chat also, look at the how you will be evaluated portion of that job announcement. One of the most important things that you can do when you fill out that resume and put it into the system against one of those announcements is to make sure you answer how you will be evaluated with quantifiable knowledge, skills, and abilities that will make it easy for the person on the other end to see if you qualify or not. Obviously, there will be other things that you have to make sure you put into that into your application as part of the process, but you can eliminate yourself very quickly if you fail to address those areas that are listed in that how you will be evaluated portion of the announcement. Hope that helps.
Yes, and Sergeant Major, this is Oliver, and I'd just like to amplify that point. I think it's very important. If you look through the whole announcement, it will kind of give you some clues. And I think Director Klein mentioned this, and I think you hit spot on. When those knowledge, skills, and abilities are outlined, one of the first things I think I've seen is that many people don't address all of them and don't address them in enough ways that makes it not only quantifiable, but also has them stand out and germane to the actual job. And I think that's it. If you're able to do that, that will help you get past the first couple of hurdles. Over.
Do we have any? That's all the questions that I see in the chat right now. I got one more. My son there, Sergeant First Class Mario Galloway, my military son. He put it in the chat. Is it difficult to receive a 180-day waiver?
What's the waiver in reference to? Can we unmute him?
Yeah, Mario Galloway. Hey,
I'm going to ask Latika to chime in here in a minute. So there's different pathways to entering the federal service, and a number of those are when an active duty military member can take a detail or go work for a federal agency, not employed by the federal agency, still be in the military, but work for an agency, kind of like a trial period. So come over and see if you like this kind of work. It's called the Skill Bridge program. Latika, are you able to provide some additional information on this? Because I think it does equate to some of that 180-day waiver question.
Right. We do offer many organizations, I will say, do offer the opportunity or through the Skill Bridge program where folks who are on their final 180-day stretch before separating will be able to be placed within our organization. It doesn't have to always be a law enforcement position. So we had some folks come over in our financial management directorate and work with that directorate to see if that's a good fit, if that's the type of work they want to do. I think it's a great trial period with working with the federal government, feeling all of the different ins and outs, policies, the way we move and shake in the federal government when it comes to either financials or even on the law enforcement side. I know we've also tried that within our training and professional development, working with our instructors and things of that nature. So there is an opportunity for folks to transition through the Skill Bridge program with FPS. We do document a plan of all the things we expect the person to learn or be exposed to while working within Skill Bridge with FPS. And I'm sure other organizations do the same, other agencies.
Yes, thanks.
That answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Latika. I had mentioned that during my presentation, the Skill Bridge program is one that we have really implemented in DEA along with the Operation Warfighter. Those do allow applicants and the employers to kind of circumvent some of the normal 180-day period for transitioning military, and that's what it's based. It is basically designed for, and we work with a lot of our veterans coming on at DEA in those two particular programs.
Hey team, Colonel Map team, I appreciate you all putting this on. This is Sergeant First Class Mario Galloway. My question was about the 180-day waiver. Over the past year, I've served as the Fort Knox DES Sergeant Major, and I've set several hiring boards. And what we were having at our level, we were receiving from the CPAC office was the 180-day waiver for individuals that are retiring. We kept getting it kicked back because there's a waiver you can put in for individuals that's applying for jobs to allow them to work for you, come work for the team before that 180-day holding period, for lack of better words. And we were getting our waivers kicked back. I'm just wondering, at the level from your guys' foxhole, are those waivers being approved easily or no? Or do we even have to put one in for federal jobs such as DEA or other three-letter agencies?
Anybody on the as far as the panelists can
Um,
answer the call?
I can speak to outside of the skill bridge. So the skill bridge is what we were speaking to about, where you are paid on active duty service and you are released into a training program, so to speak, with inside of a certain radius, as long as it's approved by MCOM, and MCOM takes you into, or it's both, the MCOM is tracking that you're being taken care of and trained by the supporting agency in which you are working for, Mr. Galloway. As far as the 180-day waiver, it depends on the agency in which it is appropriated or not. And as far as I'm aware, ours does not. And it is the 180-day waiver as far as double tapping for federal employment, meaning I get a paycheck from the Army and I get a paycheck from the federal government. That's not a thing, or that is not something that I know of that we support. I can't speak on behalf of other agencies, and I don't believe, I'm not too positive about any other ones as well, but I know that for us, that's not something that we have seen or have even explored or know if that was something that was work. But Mr. True and some of the other panelists may or may not know the more appropriate answer or have way more extensive knowledge in it.
Yeah, what we'll have to do is we'll go back to our HR professionals and see if there's any particular one that talks to specifically that 180-day waiver that was mentioned. We'll get that back to the information for everybody.
Hey, Mario, I'll follow back up with you on that question directly, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Another additional footnote, those SkillBridge programs, while INCOM has the final approval for those, it also is contingent upon a specific chain of command and them allowing for that person to be released. Now, most of them don't have too much trouble signing off on that release for a person to move into a SkillBridge opportunity, but there have been some cases where chains of command just refuse to allow it to happen. So just buyer beware, I guess.
All right, thanks, Mike. And Rob Green, thanks for joining, Rob. Rob basically commented on that. Rob said the hiring authority has the power. However, I'm tracking if someone else does not need a waiver, they will be prioritized ahead of the individual who requires a waiver. And that's Rob Green comment, and he's a battalion commander out at Fort Lewis. Okay. Hey, we'll go ahead. We'll say any other questions you may have. You go ahead and put it in the chat. But what I want to do now, I want to go ahead and turn it over to Beth for the slide on membership, and I'll make some closing comments. Go ahead, Beth.
Good evening, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity for those who have chimed in with us today. Appreciate all of the briefers, the panelists, and providing this information. This is information that we would definitely like to share to the widest dissemination and through all of our platforms, whether it be contact information or what have you. But we also want to make sure that we get this information out to the field by sharing it on our various social media platforms. So again, thank you for the opportunity to share the information, because knowledge is power, and sharing this knowledge is definitely going to help all of the folks who have been not only in attendance this evening, but may follow on the recap that might help them in their continued journey. Now to talk about with the membership. So as you see on the slide, obviously MPRA is the one hosting this event, but we do have various membership options. We have the standard membership for those who have the background with law enforcement, whether it be, yes, initially we started as U.S. Army MP focused only. We have branched out to our sister services and also to include civilian law enforcement. So basically anyone who has a background with a law enforcement is eligible for the standard membership. We have the friends and family membership. So that's for those who do not have the background with law enforcement, whether it be a spouse, a parent, brother, sister, they can also join the association, and the benefits are just a little bit different. And then we also have our corporate membership. As you can see, you know, some of the benefits that include, you know, pride definitely being a part of your professional organization. Esprit de corps, you know, it's so folks have already joined a bigger part or being something bigger than what they are. Why not be a part of your professional organization? And of course, it does always look good on a resume that you're a part of your professional organization. Other benefits we do have, as you can see, a 10% discount when you shop with our gift shop. That's whether it's be online or physically in the store. We also will have, and the Dragoon magazine has recently transitioned to a online only platform. And with that online platform, it allows for a more interactive experience. The links and everything are live. But now as we move forward, if there's video clips for various things in some of these articles or some of the ads, they can go to that live feed on it. Some our members do receive benefits at various universities that we have partnered up with. And the membership dues, essentially they go back to our legacy programs, our benevolent fund, our scholarship fund, and then of course the Regimental Walkway and Memorial Grove. And so if there's questions about membership, please reach out to us. Again, our association is here to support MPs, not just only here at Fort Leonard Wood, but abroad. So I've kind of I've had the saying of, you know, we go wherever an MP goes, and so does the association. So whether they're going to Fort Couch or they are going to, you know, Fort wherever, they can still be a part of your professional organization. And not only that, whether they're past or present, once an MP, always an MP, and you can be a part of your professional organization.
Hey, Beth, thanks for that pitch. We have a question from Nicholas on the line, and he's an ROTC, and he put in the chat, do I have to be an MP to join the MPRA site and be a member? That's a question that Nick had.
So if you're not an MP with no law enforcement background, you would be eligible for the friends and family membership.
Good. All right, good. And we'll save those questions and send the rest of the questions out. I know it's pretty much we went a little bit over, but I want to tell you, you know, from my perspective, it was a great mentorship session tonight. It is extremely, you know, important that we do this. You know, even tonight, I will tell you, I have my son on the line tonight from Virginia Commonwealth University. He graduates December timeframe, and he's an MP. So he's an MPRA member, and he's on the line tonight with some of his friends that are criminal justice majors. So it's very important to keep doing what we're doing and trying to help the MP community and family members and whoever we can help. But this is a great platform. I also want to say thanks to Aaron and Beth. You know, Aaron and Beth pretty much set this thing up. You know, it's a lot of work that really goes into this thing. It really does. And we cannot do what we do without Aaron and Beth as far as being behind the scenes, setting everything up. And to the panelists, you really did a great job tonight, Director Klein, taking time out of your schedule as the director of LPS. It says something about you and how you support the military community as a former MP. Thanks again. Oliver Saunders, can't say enough about you. And you and Saul Major True, thanks for being on the team. But tonight was a great event, and we're gonna continue to keep this going every quarter. The next quarterly session, we're looking at VA benefits. I spoke to Colonel Retired Huey on yesterday, so he's excited to do a pitch on VA benefits. And we have another individual that spoke up today to say he want to assist in that as well. But I will tell you, this was a great event. And my final comments, I go ahead and turn it over to Rick, who would like to say something. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I just noticed three things tonight. The first one, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that Beth recently got married. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. And she reminds me how big a deal that is every day. And then the second thing that I noticed is that you all have aged much better than I have. I've noticed that. But the third thing, on a serious note, I want to say, you know, many months ago, maybe years now, I know when Sergeant Major Orvis brought this up, that you, Colonel Mapp, were doing these mentoring sessions. I know that over the years, working with Mike, it's pretty ironic. And I know Director Klein and some of the folks are still maybe on there, but you three are actually board members of MPRA. Out of 14 board members, three of them's on this call. And I know Larry's on here, uh, but I think we've seen over the years, all of you, Beth included, you're to the point now in your life where you could just probably not really worry about this stuff too much. But you are taking the time to do it because I can tell you from the NCO side, and Mike will probably attest to this too. Years ago, we just didn't do a good job of helping NCOs when they either separated or retired, launching into the civilian world. Um, everybody that I talk to now that comes in, I said, make sure your VA stuff's done, make sure your resume's done, because the other things we'll figure all that out. Soldiers will figure out how to be a soldier. But the day you walk out of the army, it can be a little bit of a lonely and somewhat daunting task how you navigate this. So I just personally want to say, from us and the board, we appreciate what you're doing because I can assure you it makes a big difference. And I've had people that we've turned. I know Director Klein. We got a contact that we just met here a few weeks ago, actually. Secret Service. We got Border Patrol people that we work with, the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and it's pretty cool that they all want to talk to military police. And I think you folks that are behind the scenes doing this has launched this. That I think the sky's the limit on where this is going to go. So I just want to say thanks for all the effort.
Hey, Rick, thanks for those kind words, and thanks for what you do as well. But again, the last people I missed out, Latico and also Chelsea Porterfield. Thanks again, team. That's all I have. I really appreciate you dialing in tonight, and have a great night. And looking forward to the next session. And we will get any question that we didn't answer tonight. We'll make sure we send those out to the personnel that are on the call tonight. I think we may have a couple that we need to follow up with. But other than that, have a great night, and thanks again, and be safe.